Maybe I'll talk. If it's okay, can I talk to you?
Yeah,
okay.
of course.
It's always
a little easier.
A little easier.
Yeah, okay. Hi, Greg. First, congratulations on this amazing film. The audience already applauded at the end, and I personally love it. Could you share what originally inspired you to tell the story of the Sing Sing Rehabilitation Through the Arts program?
Sure, thank you. And we've been working on this movie for over 8 years, and came across the story quite unexpectedly. I was producing a short documentary 8 years ago in Kansas. It was my first time ever behind the walls of a prison. And on a tour of the facility, we were doing a doc about something else, but I passed by a cell, and there was a young man raising a rescue dog inside of a cell. And immediately just stopped me in my tracks because it upended all the expectations that I had had about prison and incarcerated people from the movies I grew up watching. But here in this cell, I was witnessing healing that was happening in both directions between this man and this animal. And felt the compassion and the care. And so that night in the hotel room, I was just desperate to know, was there anyone else out there doing things differently? And just on the internet, I found Rehabilitation Through the Arts very quickly in New York. And they had been, around since 1996, founded by a woman named Catherine Vaukins alongside several incarcerated men. And they've been putting on plays ever since. And I came across a very odd, unusual play in an Esquire magazine article about a time-traveling musical comedy called Breaking the Mummy's Code. And I was just so struck by the joy of the process for the men and in the production against what is such a dark environment of Sing Sing, one of the world's most infamous prisons. And it just was something that I really wanted to feel that same joy that these men felt, and shared that with Clint.
Roy and Clint, the film balanced both the harsh realities of prison life and the moments of beauty and transformation through the arts. What were the key themes you wanted to highlight in this movie for both?
What were the what we wanted
Key
to highlight?
themes.
Oh, key things we wanted to highlight?
Themes.
I think exactly what you just outlined was a big thing for us from the beginning, which was these men are in this very dark place. They've all come for different reasons and gotten there differently, but they're all there to look ahead now and think about what's next and find a better path for their lives and find release, whether that's physical or just mental and emotional. And that was always something, as we were trying to figure out the scripts along the way, that we were trying to highlight.
For you, Clint, the story touched on the humanity of the incarcerated men. How did you approach crafting a narrative that avoids stereotyping prisoners and instead focus on their potential for growth and change?
Yeah, that was something that was also very, very important along the way, was avoiding stereotypes. And just showing the men as people. We crafted the story in such a way, something that kind of became the beacon was just focusing on the friendship at the center of it. And as you're telling this play, the story of this play coming together, really focusing on the friendship of these men as it develops and grows and changes, and the community that they hold together became the most important thing.
Right, Colman Domingo portrayal of John Divinci, Watchful, is incredible. What was the casting process like for this role, and how did he prepare to embody such a complex character?
Well, we landed on that friendship narrative quite late in the process. It was about 6 years into development, and we were going to start over with a new script. And as we settled on this vision of telling a story of friendship, like the kind of key plot points of that story fell out very quickly. In about 10 minutes, I wrote it down in a notebook. And at the very bottom of the page, I just wrote Colman Domingo as Divine G. It was just an instinctual feeling that he was the one to play this part. And we reached out to his team through our manager, and 2 months later, we were on a Zoom with him. And we didn't have a script to share because we were starting over. We didn't have a budget. We only had this Esquire magazine article, as well as 6 years of experience, and stories to share. And he got on Zoom with us, and he heard the journey of that we had been on, and at the very end of that conversation, he was like, at this point in my career, I'm realizing that there are some projects that are seeking you to teach you something. You don't know what it is, you just know that it's trying to, and I'm saying yes to that at this point in my life. And I've got 3 weeks open in July, and I was like, we'll take them. And I think he was also very attracted to the fact that there was an open canvas here, that he could really step in with the fullness of who he was as an artist. Someone who is not just one of our great actors. He's a writer himself. He's a director. He's a playwright. He's a producer. And all this was a project that he could bring all of that to bear, really help shape that character. And I think to your question on like how did he build it, he very early on set an intention for his character, which was like, I want it to be about 3 things. I want it to be honest, I want it to be elegant, and I want it to be tender. And that was a really valuable distillation of a lot of what we knew about the real Divine G and about the men in the program, but to kind of crystallize that became a lens by which to like look at building it alongside of him. And he had some conversations with the real Divine G that were really instrumental in forming his role, but he also likes to have space to find his own way into the character, and that was different than Paul Racy, who plays Brent Buell. He worked very closely with Brent through the entire production, and actors have their own way and their own process.
Klaus Divine I. Maclin plays himself in the movie. What was it like working with someone who has lived the same experience the film portrays? How did he influence the direction of his character?
Sure.
I'll say in terms of building the character with him, and then maybe Greg can speak to directing him and working with him that way, but yes, he plays somebody who is based on his own life, but it's very much a character, the way that it's built, and what he does with that performance. And it was incredible building it with him. It was we wouldn't have been able to build such a complex character without knowing him and without him building it with us. He brought so much of his own life to it and so much of his own experiences, not only experiences in the context of events that are in the movie, but also just the interiority that he brought to it, and an understanding of that situation we would have never been able to do. And he's just such a brilliant actor, but also a brilliant person, and so thoughtful that it just made it much better.
Paul Racy also plays a pivotal role in the film. How did you decide to cast him, and how did this character help shape the dynamics of the theater group in the story?
Is that Paul?
Paul Racy.
Paul Racy, yeah. That was a very hard role to cast, because, if you cast the wrong person in that part, it could be the type, if it's a certain kind of actor who could come into that space and it almost draws all the attention to themselves. And Paul Racy is the kind of actor who exudes a ton of warmth. He can own the screen when it's his time, but he has a generosity of spirit as an actor that he can, operate within the context of the community and allow other men to have the focus, because it's, we've seen a lot of movies about the teacher going into the program, and this is a different point of view by the axis of the members themselves. And so he plays a very valuable role as an instructor and a facilitator, and he's based on a man that we know very well, Brent Buell, who was very involved with us through the whole development process and maintained this wonderful network of friendships from the alumni of the program, and actually wrote this play, Breaking the Bummy's Code, and all that. And so, we knew this person very well that we were then casting, and so it was like, but Brent is kind of a very unique individual, and it wasn't about trying to copy that in a way, but get the spirit right and the essence of someone.
The use of real, formerly incarcerated men as part of the cast gives the film a unique authenticity. How did their involvement impact the filming process and the atmosphere in the set?
On every level.
Yeah.
At almost a molecular level, I would say. You know, they are the life force of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like we had 13 alumni from this program in our cast.
Yeah.
It is the cast in so
Yes.
many ways, and so they also are very proud of this program and their work within it as people, and so they were very much like the shepherds in many ways of preserving what this was really like, how this process really works and unfolds. They also brought a lot of just enthusiasm of being in their first film and the excitement of that, the energy of that. It was really rejuvenating, I think, for so many of us involved to be in their presence.
Shooting in decommissioned correctional facilities must have posed challenges. Could you describe how that environment shaped the film's tone and how you manage the emotional weight for both the cast and crew?
It definitely presented challenges to shoot in decommissioned prisons. There were the physical challenges that we all went through in trying to make the movie, of just their very unforgiving environments. There's no air conditioning. The air is very dead. It's all concrete floors, and it's difficult. But the more difficult thing was, in some ways, for the men who were the men from RTA who were coming back in. To put back on greens that they had worn so long ago, and to go back into a facility. But it became ultimately a very cathartic experience for them, where they all collectively, had a sense of catharsis from going through this process, and it was really beautiful to see them go through that. And finally, now the greens that they were putting on were not something that was forced on them by governmental body. It was a costume they were putting on, and then they were deciding to take off at the end of the day. So,
Barriere, the film was shot in 16mm film. What motivated you that choice, and how do you feel it added to the overkill visual storytelling?
I mean, all the credit is really due to Pat Scola, our cinematographer, who believed that was the format that this movie belonged on. And he made a very both practical and emotional case for it. The practical case being that, we didn't have the budget to fully build out these environments and fully light them in ways that, what we like to say is the digital eye sees all. And film is a very forgiving medium in terms of a lot can kind of fall away into the background. We also shot a lot of the movie at high noon, and film is very gorgeous in daylight, in a way that digital might need, like sunrise and sunset, to achieve a certain level of beauty. But I think the main thing was this is a movie really about human faces, and I think the textures and stories that a face can tell are really brought alive in a very special way on film.
The contrast between the cold prison environment and the warmth of the theater program is striking. Can you tell us how you worked with cinematographer Pat Scola to achieve this look?
Yeah, I think it was about embracing a language for those different worlds, and not trying to have a set of all-encompassing rules visually. And so I think the world of prison, one thing that we really talked a lot about in coming up with sort of the approach was to have the camera be confined in a way that the people are inside the prison reality. So a lot of it's very locked off, very formal. We were really inspired by a lot of photographs of just men from the 60s, actually from Sing Sing, of just men waiting in these long lines. And we felt like that was a really important motif to bring into the experience of the movie. And then when you enter the theater, it's like, how does the camera get to bloom and come alive like the men do, and have the freedom of movement and really be able to interact and dance and become its own character? And so those were the two real hallmarks amongst many other decisions in the process.
The play within the movie, Breaking the Mummy's Code, is a unique choice. What inspired the inspiration for choosing this specific production as a centerpiece of the Inmates Theatre program?
I mean, that came from the very beginning, 8 years ago, that night in a hotel room. I mean, we knew that there could be a movie within RTA reading any article about any production, but I think there's something very challenging about dramatizing a drama program. If you were to do a dramatization of them putting on a dramatic play inside such a dramatic environment, it could yield a melodrama.
Yes.
And so Breaking the Mummy's Code is this wonderful ballast to the realities of this facility that it exists within. And it feels, even though to some it might seem silly, to these men it was life or death, and this beautiful light to hold on to that kept them going.
The film touches on redemption, forgiveness, and the transformative power of art. How do you hope audiences will react to these themes, especially in the context of a prison setting?
I think what we're finding that audiences are feeling is that they're feeling a deep connection to these men, and they're thinking about the power of redemption or the power of art in their own lives. That is, in a way, they're connecting with men who are largely forgotten by society, purposely forgotten by society, and inspired by them, just as we were so many years ago. And that has been just a joy to see.
It's clear the film presents the art as a powerful tool for rehabilitation. How do you see this message fitting in the broader conversation about prison reform and the justice system?
Well, there's a quite staggering statistic related to the effectiveness of this work, and the transformative process of this program, and that in our country, in the United States, the recidivism rate of someone's likelihood to return to prison within 5 years of their release is over 60%. 60% of people will go back inside within 5 years of their release. Graduates of this program, less than 3% ever go back inside. But it's not rocket science. It's what happens when you give someone access to the creation of art, to creativity, to education. Those are tools that are sort of almost essential to human development and growth. And when you strip that away, and you grind someone down and sort of remove their individuality and humanity, what do you think is going to happen? But if you create capacity for empathy to grow again and for someone to flourish, then they're going to flourish.
As a director, what was the most challenging part of telling this story, and what was the most rewarding aspect of this project for you?
I mean, the most challenging part was those 6 years of development, and just like getting to the point of finding it, finding the story. And once you're there and doing it, I mean, that's a gift. To be on set making a film, it's such a precious thing that doesn't come around often. I mean, I've directed, in 8 years of being a feature director, I've directed 35 days total between 2 films. Like that. When you recognize that, there's just a ton of gratitude to be doing it. And then what was the most rewarding part?
Yes, for you.
The most rewarding part is to have created a space for men who have endured so much. To be able to have the stage again to communicate their story to the entire world,
Clint, as a co-writer and producer, how did your vision of the film evolve from initial conception to the final product?
I really think it was in the story that it evolved the most, where the tone that Greg wanted to hit from the beginning was the one that is in the final film is the one that he wanted to capture in the beginning of the process, all those 8 years ago now, 6 years before we started shooting. And so it was amazing it was really difficult to try and figure out how to structure a script in a way to capture what Greg was trying to capture and what RTA was doing in their rooms and in their programs. But that was really the thing that was the hardest to do, and what didn't change. I think what I didn't realize maybe that I'm just so blown away by in the final film is just the joy that comes out of it and comes through, even the joy that comes through the sadness. And it really, I was telling Greg the other day, it kind of feels like a hangout movie in a way, rather than like another genre, and that's really hard to do and really fun.
Both of you have worked together before. How did your collaboration on Sing Sing differ from your previous projects?
Start with me.
Go ahead. I'm thinking. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we've been working together for almost 14 years.
Yeah. Nice.
And we've made 3 films together now, and Clint's actually in post on a 4th film that we wrote together. And I think Sing Sing was what's beautiful about how we work together is we're both, distinct directors first and foremost, but that have such a shared sense of values and a lot of overlap in taste and in a way we see the world, and in the things that we're curious about, and so we found this unique way of working, of like writing together and helping that filmmaker find what he was just saying, like find the way to accomplish this instinct around a film, and then be in support of whoever's directing, be in support of that person as a producer. And by doing that and having to be almost deferential to another's vision, and when you're a director who often has their own vision and their own point of view, I think it helps shape you as a filmmaker to have this inherent humility when you come into the process that I think is valuable in working in such a collaborative medium.
I have read that your movie received stunning ovation and incredible reviews after its premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival. How this reaction influenced your feelings about the film's future and its potential for award recognition?
I mean, the amazing thing about that was, yes, it was a beautiful standing ovation at Toronto for the film, which we had never really experienced anything like that. But the truly magical thing was that a lot of the men who were in the film were standing up there with us, and just to see the love that the audience gave to them, and how they were, that was the first time we brought it out into public anywhere, and I think now we're a bit used to how much audiences love them, but thinking back to that moment that you're talking about, just seeing the adulation that they were getting and the joy that people had being around them, that was better than any award that will ever come or not come.
Yeah.
A24 has positioned Sing Sing as a major awards contender. What does it mean for you as a filmmakers to have this kind of backing and support?
From A24?
Yeah.
It was a rare connection that happened where we made a movie in a very community-driven approach, in a way that I think a lot of movies aren't. I think a lot of movies are designed to be that way, but it doesn't always happen that way, where everyone feels like a real sense of ownership over the movie that we made, brought their best work forward collectively, and what was rare was to meet a studio that operates in a very community-driven way. I mean, they really empower their team to get out and make things happen and make decisions and have innovative ideas, and it was just this wonderful heart connection of purpose, and the way that the movie personally resonated with them as well. And they were also very bold. They had huge ambition for what it could be. It actually expanded our own belief of what was possible, and they saw something quite large that they were going to go after. And then, as Clint said, being in the awards conversation is a strange place to be, because, again, we made something in a very community-driven way that then through awards gets kind of positioned as individual accomplishments.
Yes.
When really we want to celebrate and lift up this entire project, but what awards can do for independent films in terms of just giving oxygen and giving a reason for audiences to see it, it's worth it so that people around the world will see this story, meet these men, and connect with this, with the themes that we've talked about.
The audience at the Deauville American Film Festival really applauded at the end of screening. Me too. How does it feel to see international audiences connect with the story on such a deep emotional level?
That was amazing. Actually,
Yeah.
we're back to Deauville after
Yes.
being here 8 years ago with Transpecos. Our first film together. Greg's first film as a director, and yeah, it was amazing to see. We haven't shared it with an international audience really, like
Yes.
in this capacity, and to see their love for it, even reading subtitles on the bottom of the screen, was really mind blowing. It was really beautiful.
There's something about like French passion with something with an emotional story like this.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're hearing what's been so amazing, just being out on the street and hearing from people who are in that audience say passionately
Yes.
what the movie made them feel,
Yes.
is also been a beautiful experience this week.
And my last question, finally, what do you hope the lasting message viewers take away after watching Sing Sing?
Well, I mean, I hope people recognize the human potential behind the walls.
Yes.
I hope people celebrate the friendships in their lives and that recognition that, you know, no matter how hard it gets, that we can hold on to each other. We can choose joy. It's a mindset, you know, and no matter what the world and what's operating against you, we can still have love for each other, you know.
Can you repeat, please?
Oh yeah.
Thank you.